Lock eyes with the chimpanzee for 3 full seconds, and you have just done something it reads as a challenge, a threat aimed straight at its rank. Not a greeting, not curiosity, a provocation in a language older than ours. And the unsettling part is that some version of that rule runs through nearly every set of eyes on this planet, including the 2 you're using right now. We treat eye contact as warmth. We tell children to look people in the eye. We trust the person who holds our gaze and distrust the one who looks away. But step outside our species, and that instinct flips into something dangerous. To most animals, a direct, unbroken stare is not connection. It is confrontation. To understand why, start with the chimpanzee, because it shows us the rule at its sharpest. In a wild chimp community, a direct stare is a status move. A dominant male will fix a subordinate with a hard, open-eyed glare, and the message lands instantly. I outrank you, and I am watching you. The subordinate's correct answer is to look away, to break contact, to make himself small. Holding that stare back is the social equivalent of stepping forward and refusing to bow, and among animals strong enough to tear phone books like paper, that refusal can turn physical fast. That isn't folklore. It comes out of how the behavior is distributed across the whole primate family. In a 2020 study in the journal Scientific Reports, researchers Ethan Harrod, Christopher Coe, and Paula Niedenthal compared tolerance for eye contact across many primate species. They found a clean pattern. The more steeply hierarchical and despotic a species' society, the less eye contact it tolerates. In those rigid, dominance-driven worlds, like rhesus macaques, a direct look is loaded, risky, a thing you do not do lightly. In the more relaxed, egalitarian species, eye contact softens. The stare, in other words, is wired to social structure. The harsher the pecking order, the more a look becomes a weapon. And it isn't only your eyes that betray you, it's the whites around them. In a 2022 study in the journal eLife, Fumihiro Kano and colleagues showed that the uniformly white sclera of the human eye makes the direction of our gaze unusually easy to read in both humans and chimpanzees. We are, quite literally, built to advertise where we're looking, which means that when you lock onto a chimp, you are not staring subtly, you are broadcasting it. If your sense of eye contact has shifted a little already, that's the idea. If you're enjoying this, take a second to subscribe. It genuinely helps the channel grow. And tell me in the comments which animal you want decoded next. Big cats, wolves, the creatures in your own backyard? I read them and they shape what I make. Now, back to the eyes. Here's the deeper question. Why would a stare mean danger in the first place? Why this signal in so many different animals instead of some other one? The answer reaches back past primates entirely, to predators. For a hunting animal, locking eyes on prey is the final step before the chase. The lion fixes the gazelle, the focus narrows, the body coils. So over millions of years, being stared at came to mean one specific, deadly thing. I have selected you. A direct gaze is the look of a predator that has chosen its target. That is why it triggers alarm so deep and so fast across the animal kingdom. The stare is the oldest threat there is, and almost everything that can be hunted has learned to fear it. You can watch this same ancient logic play out in animals we live with every day. Take dogs. A relaxed, soft gaze between a dog and its owner is a genuine bond. In a 2015 study in the journal Science, Takefumi Nagasawa and colleagues showed that when dogs and owners gaze at each other, both release oxytocin, the same bonding hormone that links human parents and infants. But push that gaze into a hard stare at an unfamiliar dog, and the meaning curdles. In a 2016 study in the journal PLOS ONE, Sanni Sampi and colleagues tracked dogs' eyes and found they actively look away from threatening human faces. A gaze aversion the researchers describe as an appeasement signal. Looking away is how a dog says, "I'm not a threat, please don't escalate." The averted gaze isn't weakness, it's diplomacy. Now turn that lens back on yourself, and the strangeness comes home. Because we feel it too. A stranger holding your gaze a beat too long on an empty train makes the hair on your neck rise. That's not paranoia. That's the predator stare alarm firing in a modern body. And it has been measured. In an early study by Phoebe Ellsworth and colleagues, drivers stopped at an intersection were stared at by someone on a motor scooter. The result? The drivers who got the stare crossed the intersection faster, escaping the gaze sooner than drivers who weren't stared at. A look alone was enough to push them away. The threat stare lives in us still, under the manners. So we end where we began, with a rule we share with the chimp far more than we'd like to admit. We are the species that learned to override the ancient signal, to turn the stare inside out and make it mean love, trust, attention, intimacy. A mother and her newborn lock eyes and the bond floods in. We took the oldest threat in nature and rebuilt it into our deepest form of connection. But the older meaning never left. It's still there, just beneath the kind one, which is why a stranger's stare can frighten you, and why a chimpanzee, meeting your eyes across a barrier, doesn't see a friendly visitor. It sees a challenge. The difference between a threat and a bond, it turns out, can be 3 seconds of looking, and which animal happens to be looking back. If you want one of these every week, subscribe. It's free, and it's how these stories keep coming. Every study I mentioned is cited in the description, so you can read them yourself. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.